Welcome to this very special interview being conducted here at the Pan-African Parliament. At this moment, I am in the company of the Deputy Clerk of the Pan-African Parliament. He is also in charge of finance, administration, and human resources. And for the past 6 months, he's been acting as Clerk of the Pan-African Parliament. That means during the fourth Parliament's first plenary session, he was the Clerk. Welcome, sir, to this special interview.
Welcome, thank you. Welcome to the PAP.
Now, we have been around the Parliament. We have, in the past weeks, witnessed the sittings, the first plenary session of the fourth Pan-African Parliament. We heard the deliberations. Some of the issues were really thorny. Now, let's look, first of all, at a motion that was moved about having the Pan-African Parliament going solo as far as elections observations are concerned. We know that the Pan-African Parliament has been in league with the African Union, the bigger body, and some other organizations in elections monitoring around Africa particularly. But it looks like some members of the Parliament are not pleased being mingled up with other members of some other organizations, particularly the bigger body, which is the African Union. How could this play out in the coming months and years, especially so when elections observations are continual?
Thank you very much. Basically, the issue of election monitoring is a crucial part of democracy and good governance. And as we have seen, it's one of the critical areas that the African Union is grappling with. The Pan-African Parliament, being the body that has been tasked with the legislative activities of the African Union, has a big role to play in order to ensure that these elections are free and fair and are legitimate and that the results are valid. The AU has this task since the past, and when the PAP came on board, they also joined the AU as part of the delegation of the AU to monitor these elections. We do not have big issues as such on this activity, except that, as you know, the Parliament is mainly based on parliamentarians and is more of a body that is representative of the actual, of the people on the ground. In terms of elections and other issues, the Parliament is more tuned in, especially since it also comprises of opposition as well as women candidates who are able to monitor thoroughly these activities of these elections. I don't see a bigger problem of us going solo in that we will be able to give also our own private input independent of what the AU will give. That will even further legitimize the outcome of elections, because you will have two parties, both AU organs, but at a different wavelength and with different mandate, doing their own assessment on whether the elections were free and fair. And in that sense, if both of them come out with the same outcome, it just makes it more credible worldwide for people to know that these elections were actually transparent and fair. So actually, because we are an organ of the AU, if we have to do something in that nature, the AU will also need to sanction it. And I don't think they will have a problem with that. But we have to do it in coordination with them, because we are one united Africa. We are one body. It's just that we are the legislative arm and they are the executive arm. But all the same, I'm sure when we discuss these issues and come to a common ground on how we do these things, it would be a fruition and it shouldn't be a difficult task. The only hurdle that I foresee is that the AU has more finance and more muscle in terms of security. And therefore, if the PAP wants to go on this adventure alone, it would need more resources, because when we go as a joint team with the AU, they provide the extra security, the extra amenities that we don't have. So we have to really calculate the impact financially and otherwise of these issues, or maybe even the AU will not mind giving us those support as a separate team, but giving us those extra facilities just to ensure that we carry out our own independent assessment. That doesn't delegitimize what the AU does. It doesn't affect what the PAP wants to do. It just adds another dimension to the whole activity, which will mean that both bodies, independent of each other, can come out with their own report and be able to give the Africans a true picture of how they feel about it.
Now let's say, does the parliament feel dwarfed by the commingling?
I don't think that's the main issue. The commingling has some impact because, as you know, if the AU leads the delegation and we are just supplementary to what they do, unless we have PAP has a strong voice in that outcome or in that report, its impact will be dwarfed. I think maybe that's one of the concerns of some of the MPs. Not everyone, but some feel that when they go on these missions, their input is not taken on board fully as they would wish. So this is something that maybe they wish they had their own assessment report done independently, because it's not only PAP that's an organ of the AU that goes on these monitoring missions. There are other organs as well. So if each of the organs brings maybe 2 or 3 people or 1 or 2 people, and then AU also has 5 or 6 people, it's a question of numbers. And then you have to now come to a compromise event, results, review the reports, and each of them will now, but the final report would have to be AU's report. So you see, in that sense, we cannot dictate how we feel independent of what the AU's general outcome is. But it's all one body. It's the African Union. PAP is part of that union. If the AU comes up and feels that, yeah, PAP can still run their own thing, we'll give them the facilitation, we'll give them the money, and let them just give a report that will be transparent and compared with whatever we come up with as an AU executive. I don't think that should be a big issue. But like I said, these issues are things that we need to, first of all, evaluate the cost implications, evaluate other implications, and discuss and coordinate jointly with the AU so that it is not going to create a disharmony or some other problems.
There is this other problem that has got to do with Morocco, which came in and was a very tough debate there. In the well, as we witnessed the other day, the colonization of Sahrawi. It looks like this is a big decision for Africa to make in order to reverse what looks like the colonialism that has long been gone, showing its head again. How could one African country colonize another African country in this century, more than half a century after the end of colonialism, European colonialism in Africa?
Yes, it is a very delicate and highly sophisticated issue. As you know, Spanish Sahara, which is Sahrawi, basically were colonized by Spain. And now it seems Morocco wants to hold on to that territory. It is the African Union as one body that had come up with a declaration that the Sahrawi should be an independent country. And this is one of the issues why Morocco left the African Union. So basically, the PAP has to follow the African Union declaration, because we cannot have a different version in this issue that is different from the AU. The AU is the mother body. And of course, we all in Africa wants to be one in the end. So even these borders and countries would no longer be relevant. But people have a right to self-determination. And we know that colonialism in the sense of European has long gone. And we cannot accept any other country, no matter how big or small, to be controlled or dominated within Africa by another country. The debate goes on, but the majority of Africans, and a huge majority, believes that Sahrawi has to be and should be an independent country.
What's the muscle of the AU like? Because it does look like Morocco is waving off decisions of the African Union. For instance, when you started putting pressure on it, it left the AU, and it's now going closer to the EU. And by the look of things, it does look like this very pompous stature has the backing of some more powerful states. Knowing what's surrounding it, what muscle would the parliament or the AU use to ensure that Morocco is dealt with?
I think that one would be a question better answered by the Department of Political Affairs at the AU. But what I can say is, on the side of the Pan-African Parliament, in this regard, we are evaluating all options. And yes, you could say that there has been not too much progress on the side of the African Union in ensuring that the Sahrawi people have been given their own independent state. But notwithstanding that, we have seen all over the world that colonialism, in whatever way or form, or dominating other people in whatever way or form, one fine day comes to an end. Even here, the country that we are in, apartheid system, no one in their rightful mind in those days past could ever think that South Africa would be ruled by black people, as it's supposed to be. But today, you can see the black people have taken over, but they are living with their white and all other people, and all people are free and running about their own private businesses in this country. So that should not discourage people, in the sense that when we look at that, that should encourage us. That one fine day, the truth, no matter how difficult and how long, the truth always prevails. If the Sahrawi people are uniform together in their quest for independence, and the whole of Africa, notwithstanding our financial muscle, are behind them, I see no way that Morocco could in the end be able to hold on to this territory, even with the support of whoever in the external parties are that are giving them that support, because we know some external parties give support based on their own personal interests. But like I say, for the Pan-African Parliament, what is necessary for us is to ensure that we give the Sahrawi people all the support that we can, so that they can stand their ground to ensure their self-determination. These games that are playing out in the world is similar to what is happening in other countries, where we have seen the powers that be grappling things on opposite side of the coin. But at the end of the day, it is the people that will prevail. The people will decide their fate, and that's what's going to happen.
Now, I have seen that the African Union is actually united to deal with this issue. They're talking about isolating Morocco. They're talking about closing down their embassies in countries where they exist, stop doing business with Morocco, and all other things that could put pressure on it. These are all diplomatic means that the AU is seeking or using to ensure that Morocco is cornered to the extent that it feels like giving up the territory of Sahrawi. In just few words, do you think such pressure would work?
I think pressure, whether physical or coercive, at the end of the day, what I believe is that the reality and the people will ultimately prevail. The pressure helps, like sanctions helped to end apartheid and other vices. So Morocco has left the African Union, but they're still within Africa. No matter what they want or say, that they cannot cut themselves out of the map, because there is a Mediterranean Sea blocking them from Europe. They can still be Europeans if they want, but I can assure you, they are bordered and cornered by African countries. So they cannot escape that. They can belong to any union. If they want, they can join the United States of America. But all I'm telling you is, at the end of the day, if they cannot live with their neighbors, if they cannot cooperate with their family, friends, you have Algerians, Tunisians, all those people believe and are part of the African Union and believe that this thing should be right, should be done rightfully. They could come to the negotiation table together with the Sahrawi people in Africa and discuss and understand why and how this thing can be settled peacefully and harmoniously, because we are one Africa. And no matter what they want, they cannot cut their country out and float it over the ocean to the other side of the world. So it doesn't work like that. The pressure, whether it's from the AU or other people, at one fine day will come to bear, and the Sahrawi people ultimately will decide where they want to be, and they will be where they want to be.
There was another very important issue that came up, and that had to do with the parliament being here in South Africa, and the fact that there are elements of xenophobia hanging within South Africa itself. The hostility of the native South Africans towards other nationals. And considering the fact that the Pan-African Parliament is made up of a huge variety of different nationals, there's every reason to be worried. Although this was not debated, because the Parliament is awaiting a report from the President, seems like some people are not very comfortable.
Yes, my brother, the xenophobic attacks in South Africa, and especially the recent ones, are very sad. It's a very sad scene, and it's a very sour note on the African and Pan-Africanism. But I just want to make it clear to the public that, in my opinion, this is my own humble opinion, 99% of South Africans are not xenophobic. And when we talk about xenophobic, we have to be careful how to personalize that. This is my own assessment. I have lived in Southern Africa for 3 years before coming to work to PAP. And I know the hospitality that I have seen, the openness that I have seen on the average South African. All the people that are doing these elements of attacks on the fellow Africans, one, you'll find out that they are either left behind in terms of education and knowledge. They are either left behind in terms of poverty. It's not just that they are angry with their fellow black people. They are angry with everybody. They are unhappy, and they have nowhere to vent their anger. And they're taking it out on people that they thought have come in and are the ones that have taken over their jobs and other things. But they are a very tiny minority. And in every country you go, there are this tiny minority who are criminal elements that do things that have nothing to do with the general population or the country. So we have to be very cautious in the way we brand all South Africans as xenophobic. Not even, the percentage is very meager. Now, you have to understand also the background of this. South Africa is a new independent country. It has been downtrodden upon by apartheid for a long time, fighting to surface. Few of them had even had the opportunity to go outside and meet their own fellow Africans. So it's only now, after the end of apartheid, that they are mingling and gaining their grounds and catching up their breath and understanding the nature of cooperation. But we have seen how important they are to the African agenda, because they are a pivotal key element for the future of Africa. They are an anchor.
So in your view?
In my view, these xenophobic things, there are elements there. There's issues, but it's not a major factor. And we at the PAP are working in hand and glove with the AU and the government of South Africa to ensure that this kind of occurrences do not repeat themselves.
Because there were those who said it would be better if the parliament is taken out of South Africa in order to be relieved of such fears that are usually in the minds of people, thinking that I look strange, I sound strange, I could be easily identified and perhaps found vulnerable and attacked.
Unfortunately or fortunately, I am not one of those people. And the reason I'm saying that is because even though I have not been living in this country for long, I have dealt with the South African population and I've been around in the countries. It is something that doesn't end by moving PAP out of here. What benefit will that give us? Africa as a whole, you can find a country that is so stable, so wonderful, and then problems happen and you won't believe that these are the same people you have been dealing with day and night. Look at what happened in Rwanda. Look at what happened in Ivory Coast. The ADB had to run out to leave Ivory Coast and go to Tunisia for how many years? Because of the attacks that were made on people. Did it make us not go back? Now they are back in Abidjan. Its issues and trends and problems should not dictate what the world does. The world should be steadfast to fight and help. I believe that the problem of xenophobia is there, but it's a minority. And when the government and the people of South Africa take action to nip them in the bud, it will be over. And it's all through emancipation, education, helping out, making them realize that these are the very people that we are helping them during the fight against apartheid. And they come because South Africa has a lot of resources, has a lot of opportunity in order to be part and parcel of that success. If they come and they work hard and earn their living, that doesn't make them criminals.
Some people say South Africa is making immigration stiff to the extent that some people who were to attend the sessions weren't able to come because they weren't granted the visa.
You have to understand the background of that. In reality, it is difficult, general, not just for conference or what is general. It's difficult to get visas to countries that are highly developed in terms of the development ladder, because they know that there's a lot of economic migrants. So South Africa, by nature, has a very stiff immigration policy. And it's because they also have to control the numbers of people to be able to manage them. Because if you have an open border or everybody comes in, it might be difficult to manage those immigrants, especially if they're illegal, and they can come and start crimes and other stuff that don't exist in your society. And notwithstanding that, look at it in other contexts as well. Canada, UK, France. How difficult? It's difficult to get visas to those countries, even if you are going on an important occasion. So you have to understand that that happens. But the Minister of International Relations, DERCO, Department in South Africa, is made aware of some of these constraints, especially by PAP. We have regular meetings with them, and we have told them the constraints that we are getting in our people to come in. And they have told us, when you have your meetings in future, give us the list, us the ministry, and we will deal with the embassies to facilitate and make the process easy. And I think if PAP goes that way and we give them this list early enough, this issue of visas will be a thing of the past and will not cause any problem. Whoever PAP has on that list will have a smooth visa process, except if they are criminals or have some other records that we are unaware of. But of course, they, South Africa, have the right to protect the integrity of their nation. And even though they are part of Africa, but still at the moment we don't have an open border policy in Africa. So they have to also have the right to control who comes in and out. At the end of the day, it's their judgment and their decision. But being here gives us that extra leverage as an international organization, as an African organization, to liaise with the Department of Foreign Affairs, make them aware of the constraints we get, and let them facilitate and ease up the people that come here, because the reason they are coming, at least for those that come for the PAP, is because of the sessions and the meetings that are held here. And if they don't find it easy to come here, then we have a problem, because you don't like to have a session, a meeting, and all your participants, half of them don't come because of visa problems. I hope in the long run, when Africa becomes where we are trying to head to, where we have a unified country, you know, with the headquarters, with the capital city, and then we will not have these issues, because as we know, these are artificial things created by the colonial people. We were not having these borders. There was nothing like Sierra Leone and Gambia and Guinea. You could walk from Gambia to wherever in Africa. Nobody will disturb you as long as you have your own way on how to live and what to do. That's where Africa was and would have been had it not been for the invaders. So we need to lift those borders and just forget that, you know, rip off all these colonial artifacts, and know that wherever we go in the world, as long as we have this color, we are Africans. It doesn't matter. So why should we differentiate between the Zimbabwean and a South African and a Malawian? We're just Africans. That's how they see us out there. So let's pull our resources together, put our heads together, and we will see this continent move to the highest level.
It's the first decade since the establishment of the Pan-African Parliament.
Yes.
As you celebrate 10 years of one Africa and one voice, how united do you think this voice is?
Well, I would say we are at the beginning, because if you realize it took Europe so many years and so many wars before they became European Union. And we are trying to fast track that. So we have to pat ourselves on the back. It's a long road, and we want to jump the gun. First of all, the structures have to be done properly. The people have to be educated properly. Everyone should chip in. This is why this Agenda 2063, which has been devised by the AU, is pivotal. It has the targets and the plans, the resources, and all the monitoring mechanisms to see that we reach that level. It is a journey that we have to do together. It is a rough road with a lot of patches, because unlike even the Europeans, we have our problems of linguistics, French-speaking Africa, Portuguese-speaking Africa, but thank God our African intellectuals have learned to grapple all these languages and are interpreting in these meetings, so we can all understand each other and speak the same language, despite that we are speaking different languages in our countries of origin. At the end of the day, we have to start somewhere, and these are the starting blocks. The PAP brings the parliamentarians together. The executive in Addis brings the ambassadors together. They sit down and think and strategize. How do we have one similar outcome? How do we put our resources together, our synergy together? And when we do that, I know it will happen. It's a question of time. But when we do that, the numbers will come together, and the whole will be stronger than our individual selves. We are micromanaged, we are disintegrated. Even when we go to negotiate our trade terms, because we are doing it on individual country basis, we lose out. If we go in partnership and we join forces, you will see how strong this continent is.
Mr. Job, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tom. You're welcome.
I have just been speaking to the acting clerk of the Pan-African Parliament, who is actually the deputy clerk of the Pan-African Parliament. His name is Yusupha Jobe. He's also the man in charge of finance, administration, and human resources here at the Pan-African Parliament in Midrand, South Africa.
Yeah.